good, squad? Back at y'all with part 2 of the how to deal with a narcissist. Because yesterday my phone died and then I ended up getting distracted and busy, so I never came back to it. But we back here today to continue on the continuation of how to deal with a narcissist. And I think the last thing I was talking about was something about they run from their trauma, and they don't like to face accountability. So when you learn that, you understand that they're gonna do a lot of projecting. When they say stuff to you, like when they take certain digs at you, or when they're saying something to you and it's a negative thing, that's actually how they're feeling on the inside, and they're projecting it out onto you. So if they come and they attack you in some sort of way, it's really how they're feeling about them, but they can't admit it. They don't want to admit it or face those things, so then they project it onto you and put it onto you so that they can sustain the big ego that they have, like I was trying to tell y'all yesterday. So again, in order to deal with them, you have to understand that's what's going on and not engage it. Just let them say and do whatever they're gonna do, and don't be fazed by it. Don't feel no type of way about it. Understand it for what it is. Understand it for, this is a hurt being who is emotionally unstable, and they're lashing out on you because you're close enough. You're the closest person to them emotionally, and there's something about you that they admire but also envy in the same sense. So so when you're in a relationship with a narcissist, it's a love-hate thing for them. They love you because of the light that you have and the love and care that you give, but they also hate you for that same fact because they have a hard time connecting emotionally to people because of the trauma that they went through as a child or whenever it happened within their life. So they resent you for being so loving because they want to be able to be the way that you are, but they feel like they can't because they don't want to face what they know they need to face, but they feel like the pain of what they went through and the things that they've done is too much to bear, so they run from it. But again, like I said, that ends up being their downfall, because when you run from stuff, all it does is just chase you harder and harder until eventually it's going to catch up to you. And a lot of times within those situations, it ends up catching up to them when they've burnt all the bridges that they can burn. You know what I'm saying? Because they walk around and they have these relationships, but they don't actually take the relationship seriously, because a narcissist just wants control. They want to control your emotions because they don't have control over their own emotions, and also because they didn't have control over the situations that happened to them. That's why they seek control in their everyday existence within their life. So you'll find that narcissists are very controlling, and again, they'll try to make it seem like you're controlling even though they're the one being controlling. You know what I'm saying? But you can always tell the difference between a narcissist and somebody who has dealt with and healed their trauma, because somebody who's dealt with their trauma and healed it has no problem admitting to the things that they've done and apologizing for what they've done and actually meaning it. And then after admitting and apologizing, they follow that up with different actions. So they're not going to move in the same way that they were moving before, to solidify the fact that they saw the wrongs in the ways that they were moving, and that they want to reconcile the things that they did or have been doing. You know what I'm saying? And that's the key thing, to see the difference between a narcissist and somebody who maybe had narcissistic tendencies but then realized it and then healed themselves and moved on, because that person is able to take accountability. And narcissists never want to take accountability. They always want to put the blame on you, even though 90% of the time in the situations, they're the one actually starting the issue or making a situation be way more than what it's supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? But they can't take accountability for that, because if they do, then it's a hurt, it's a bruise to the fragile ego that they already have. You know what I'm saying? So when you pull your energy back and you remove yourself from the situation, it becomes a pain to them, because you're bruising their ego, because their whole thing is to have you confused and in your feelings so that you chase them. And when you are a person who holds yourself in high regard, and maybe you were in a relationship, you were doing the majority of the emotional stability, so you were always consistently making sure that, or trying to keep the peace, or trying to tap in with them and see how they're doing, how they're feeling, what you could do to make the situations go easier on your side emotionally, how you could show up for them, because you realized in real time that, okay, this person who I'm dealing with, their emotions are all over the place, but I care about them, and I want to give them a space to grow. I don't want to just treat them how everybody else treats them. But there comes a point to where if they can't face what it is that they need to face, that they're going to naturally keep doing stuff that's going to push you away, because the closer you get emotionally to them, the harder they're going to run from you, because they don't want to have a closeness in emotion. They work on the surface level, so everything for them, they want to keep on a surface level. They don't want to have deep conversations. They don't want to go to therapy. They don't want to tap into their childhood trauma or trauma that they've dealt with throughout their life and find out what their triggers are, work on that, and then heal. They don't want to do that. They feel like that's too much for them to bear if they tap into those things, because again, of the things that happened to them, and to double down on that, the things that they did because of what happened to them. So the way that they move in their everyday life. So that's what you got to understand is, if they're not willing to work on the situation, then that's when you need to remove yourself, and they're going to take a hit from that. And it might not seem like that up front. They're going to paint the picture as if they don't care and everything is going well for them in their life, when either you remove yourself or they remove you from their thing. If they, if they run off to somebody else, and you find out, and then y'all split that way, or however the split ends up coming, initially up front, they're gonna act like everything in their life is so much better without you. You were the issue, and you know, they're so glad that you're not in their life anymore. But as time goes on and they start to realize that you were one of one, and the love that you showed was rare, not only rare, but genuine and real, and not everybody that is around them is showing them that same amount of care, affection, and attention, giving them that same type of time, that's when they're going to feel it, and then you'll see a difference in their moves and how they operate with you, all while they're still trying to keep up the facade of they're not bothered. But really, behind closed doors, when ain't nobody else around, that's when it hits them, because now they have no choice but to think about all the stuff that you did for them, and how you showed up for them, how you supported them, how you were really there for them, and they have to reflect with the fact that they were the ones that pushed you away out of their life. And because they operate on negative energy, they can't continue to attract that same type of person within their life that garners the same type of energy that you have. So if you are a person who is working within, if you're normally somebody who's upbeat, has good energy, you know, always looking at the brighter side of things, optimistic, showing true authentic care and love, that you're not going to come across that every day in life. And because they discarded you and moved on to somebody who was easier to deal with, because that's really what it comes down to. It's hard for them to deal with you once you start to pinpoint things and break them down. That's when they're like, okay, this is too much for me to deal with. I don't want to work on myself. I want to be who I am. So let me push him or this person out of the situation, him or her, and move on to the next situation that feels more comfortable to them. But then again, on the latter end, what they don't realize is they've they've gotten attached to and used to the love that you gave. So anything below that is not going to suffice them anymore, because it's like if you were an addict. If you are an addict and you have the purest of the pure of whatever substance that you can get your hands on, and you've been binging on that for however long you've been binging on it, especially if it's been years, once you remove that and then you try to replace that with something that's stepped on, something that's not of that same pure quality, it's like an addict. It's not going to suffice them. So they're always going to be drawn to you, but then it's going to hit them because now they realize, I can't even go back to that person because whatever they did was so crazy or was so out there that they messed up their own blessing. You know what I'm saying? And that's what happens with them 95% of the time, 90% of the time, is they end up doing something so severe that they can't recoup from what it was that they did. So now they have to sit within that. And that makes them even more mad because they're already mad at you for being who you are, and the fact that they can't garner the same type of energy that you have. Now they're upset because they're with this person who they thought were going to be a sufficient replacement for you, but then they realize pretty quickly on that it's not. And then so they're mad about that. So they're mad that they're in this position with this person, and then they start to realize that a lot of people who they deal with are not even close to that energy that you have. So that makes them even more mad. And then when they get by themselves and they start to really thinking about how you really treated them and how good it felt to be in your presence and to be treated that way, they get mad at themselves because they know deep down they're the ones that caused the separation, and all they want to do is be back within your energy, not because they care about you, but they want to feel how they felt when they were in your presence. You know what I'm saying? That's what it is that energy that you garner that made them feel this certain type of way. That's what they end up craving and missing. And since you are the placeholder of that energy and you've revoked it, again, that's what makes them even more mad, because they feel like you've done them a disservice. Because again, narcissists feel like that you owe them something, even though you don't. But they feel like that because they were getting it from you at one point, so they felt like they were entitled to it, because these are entitled type of people. They feel entitled to things instead of feeling like they need to respect somebody or earn it. They feel like it should just come to them. They should just have it just because. You know what I'm saying? And it doesn't work that way. So they have to find out the hard way. And oftentimes they end up either stuck in a relationship to where they're not even really into the person that they're with, and they have to play the role so that they don't look, because another thing is narcissists really care about how they are perceived to the outer world. So that's why they make up all these grandiose lies and play these roles so that they can seem like a great person up front, even though they don't feel like it on the inside. So when they end up splitting with you and they move on to that next person who isn't of the same caliber of energy that you are, not saying that they're not a good person, not saying that they're going to mistreat this person or whatever the case may be, but that next person isn't of the same energetic quality. They're not showing the same amount of love that you were. When they move on to that, and they realize that that's not, that you were actually what they really want, or your energy was what they really want, and this person can't give them what they want, they're stuck, because now they have to play a role, because they moved so quickly into this relationship that if they were to split from this person and then move into another relationship, they're gonna look crazy. So they have no choice but to stay with whoever they're dealing with, and whether they like it or not, or split from that person and just be by themselves. And again, because since narcissists have a hard time of being by themselves, because when they're by themselves, their inner thoughts and those demons or entities, that darkness that's within them that they don't heal, it creeps up on them. They would rather, it's easier for them to deal with somebody who they don't even deem is somebody who they actually are into, than it is to be alone. But that within itself makes them miserable, because they don't want to be in this thing, but they put themselves in a position, or they feel like they put themselves in a position to where they have no choice but to be. And that's how they create their own downfall. And I'm telling y'all, I've seen this happen on a multitude of occasions. I've seen it happen with my own eyes, to where people will have somebody good and they're playing games on the outside, and they run off and do these things and mess up a good thing, and then it's not until it's too late that they figure out, oh, this was the person who I really was supposed to be with. Had I just worked on myself and healed, we could have had a great relationship and I could have been getting everything I wanted. But instead, I'm stuck here in this situation to where I'm not really happy, but I have to pretend and act like I am. And that's a big hit to the ego. And that's why if you're still in contact with them, that's why they will lash out, because they're upset really with themselves, but they don't have anybody to take it out on but you, because you were the source which they want. You have the source of energy which they want, which they can't get. Again, think about it as if it was an addict, and they're getting a source of energy, but it's not hitting a spot. And they know I can go over here and get this, but they messed it up for themselves, so they're gonna be angry. So that's why you'll deal with a lot of anger from them. But it's really not a you thing, it's a them thing, because they messed up their own thing, and they, again, are not just taking accountability for it, and not even realizing that if they just worked on themselves and did what they need to do, that they probably could formulate some sort of relationship to where they could be back within the energy that they want to acquire. But that's up to them to make those moves and switch up what they're doing, you know what I'm saying? So within that, you just have to be on your P's and Q's and recognize those things for when you see them. And you'll also know when you deal with a narcissist and they're with you, they're soaking up your energy. So they're gonna look the best that they've ever looked in their life. Like, you can see pictures of them previous to being with you, and then you'll see pictures of them while they're with you, and then you'll see them after y'all have been split up for a certain amount of time. You'll see them again in person, and they won't even look like the same person that they were when they were with you. And you'll see the difference in quality, because you got to remember, we are the company we keep. So again, if you're a person who's walking around with high quality energy, then when they're around you soaking up your energy, they're gonna, their whole being and everything that's going on within their life is going to be feeding off of your energy, and vice versa. So when they split from your energy and they go to the next supply or the next person who they choose to be with and use as their power source, you'll see a complete difference of quality in their life and how their life is, and actually their physical being, like their actual body. You'll see it just, it's almost like they let go of who they previously were and the energy that they were carrying. But again, they were soaking up your energy because they can't garner any of their own. So they need to soak somebody else's energy from them. So when they get with somebody who's on their level, they end up soaking up that energy, but it's negative energy. So it's going to show physically, and it's going to show within their life and the things that transpire within their life. You're going to see a steady decline in their life. And I mean, years from, it could be a few months from the time, and then years from the time, you'll see that a complete difference in how they look and how they appear. But that's just some words of wisdom from me. Take that and use it to your benefit when you're dealing with people who have narcissistic tendencies or full-blown narcissists, and protect yourself at all costs. You know what I'm saying? Bounce back from whatever it is. Don't take it personal. Understand that it's just them going through what they're going through. Don't hate them. Forgive yourself, move on, and enjoy your life. But all right, y'all.